Hi everyone and welcome to, I think it's part 3 of the Owl Post colour along. So I've just been having a look at this page before I switched the camera on, and you know, with the palette that we chose, most of our colours are actually brown. If you look at all the yellows that we have, they're all brownish yellows, they're all ochres, and obviously then you've got the dark brown and the sort of greyish browns that we use for the stone. So really the only pop of colour that we've got on this is that blue. And because most of our colours are browns, it sort of doesn't give us a lot of places to go really with regards to what we're going to choose to colour these things down here. Now I did say that we'd probably do the majority of the parcels and packages in the sort of brownish ochre yellows, you know, as parcel paper usually is that colour, and then we'd probably do one or two in the blue and gold just to tie it all in. But I was thinking, where can we go colour wise to colour in say for example these shelves or the table or whatever else that we have on here, because it's all going to look very samey. Now I could colour these shelves in the blue, but then I think we'd have to do all of the parcels in ochre, because I wouldn't want to put any blue parcels on the shelves, and that's just probably me and how I need things to be separate. But I was thinking more cleverly about how we can use the pencils that we've got, and I thought about the shelving unit, and I thought, how about we mix a black with the darkest blue that we have, which is the indanthrone blue, and that could be what we use for the insides of these little cubbies that we've got. Just trying to make some more colours and combinations out of the limited pencils that we have. And obviously I didn't want to do it in the browny greys, because the majority of it is brown grey, all the cobblestones are, so this wasn't really going to fade into the background if I use those same colours. So I'm thinking that yes, the majority of the parcels are going to be parcel paper colours, yellow ochre, and then we'll try our best to mix up the colours that we've got for the rest of the items. So without further ado, let's just get on with it. So I'm going to zoom you in. There we are. And I've got the black. Now I've sharpened these because we've got a little sort of tiny area and crevice to get into with these cubbies. So I've sharpened them fairly well, and then we'll get started. So I really want it to be quite dark at the back to show that we're going into these little cubby holes. So I'm just using the black very lightly to map out what's in my brain, really. I don't know how it's going to work or if it's the right idea, but I've got to try these things. I suppose I could have gone back on the iPad and tested the colour placement on the Procreate like I showed everyone in the first video, but I've just jumped straight into it, which is pretty much how I do things. Okay, so there's a bit of black there. I'm then going to go over the black with the indanthrone. Just see how that looks first of all. I think essentially what I'm trying to achieve is another dark shadowy area, but without using the colours that we've used for shadow already. And hopefully the addition of the blue to the black will just give it a little bit, well, it'll make it a bit more dynamic, I think, in that it's not just a flat black colour. You've got that bit of blue on the eye there. Let's put the blue all the way across, again just very lightly while I'm still working it out. I think that could work. Let's just map out the rest of it first. So this is like a little lip, I think, or at least that's what it feels like to me, so it would be darker just underneath, and then the more light would hit that back part of the side wall, I think. I'm not being precious about the light or anything. I'm just colouring it as I see it. So I hope everyone's all right. I hope everyone's enjoying the colour along so far. It is, well, it's been a really, really dreary, horrible few weeks of weather over here. Typical Britain. But the problem is it just makes you feel so tired and rubbish all the time. And you don't really have the motivation to do anything, which is a shame, obviously, but it's just so crappy out there, you know? So it just makes you feel like you haven't got the energy. And that's sort of how I am today. I'm trying to see if doing a little bit of colouring will help lift my mood. Hopefully it will. Just going underneath the parcels with the black and then overlapping with the blue. So that's essentially what I'm trying to create, is that kind of look. Maybe I just want it to be a bit darker over here. Like I said, I'm not brilliant with light sources and light directions and things like that, but hopefully that makes some sort of sense to the eye. Okay, so now that I've plotted it out really roughly and lightly, we can start to go in and really make that colour vibrant. So I've got my black pencil and I'm just going to press a little bit harder so that we start to get rid of the tooth of the paper. And I'm making sure that I colour just a little bit lighter as we get towards the blue area. But Prismacolor is very forgiving, very easy to blend, so you don't have to worry too much about that transitional area. It kind of does the job for you. I do want to make sure that we've got this blue definitely showing to the eye. I don't want it to be swallowed by the black. So I might even just leave that very, very light bit on the edge there, even though it's still got the texture of the paper and it's not as flat as the rest of the illustration. I do want the eye to sort of know that there is another colour there. It's not just black. Yeah. Find it very difficult to describe or explain what it is that's in my head. So just a bit of black under here. And just here where the male is sitting in front of that back wall, we'd have a bit of shadow there, I think. And again with the blue. So it's very subtle, that blue. Maybe slightly too subtle, but I think there is, you've still got that slight glow of the blue in there. So it doesn't just look like a flat shadow, like I said earlier. And once we've decided what colour we're doing outside of this shelving unit, then obviously this will contrast with it and hopefully it should pop a little bit more. I'm just trying to do the best that I can with the limited colours that we've got, especially as so many of them are pretty much brown, whether that's a yellow brown or a brown brown. We do have an awful lot of brown on this, so that's pretty much it. Like I said, it's a very subtle blue. and the black is obviously very close to this colour, so it's not really providing a massive contrast shadow, but hopefully the camera is picking that up. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on. I'll speed up all of the little cubby holes, and then we'll come back and we'll decide what colours to do the outside of the unit. Well, I don't think it's my lucky day today, guys, because I didn't press the record button. So I did the top row and then I realised I hadn't pressed it. But at least we have the bottom row to do, so I can show you in a speed how to do that. But while we're here, just as I've done this top row, I sort of worry that it's a little bit too dark and we can't really see the blue maybe as much as I want to. So I'm thinking of either putting a little bit of white over it or even a bit of this powder blue. I'm not sure. Let's try it. Might change the tone too much. I don't know. Let's try the powder blue. I just feel like it was a little bit too dark in there. Probably wouldn't be able to differentiate much between the dark blue and the black. So I thought if I put a little bit of a lighter colour over it, just in places, so that you can see the transition more clearly between the black and the blue. So let's do this one first and see how that turns out. So we can compare the kind of glow of this one with the others. And I do think it has changed the tone. This looks like a more of a royal blue. It looks like what we've got up here on the owls, whereas this is really dark and murky and indigo kind of coloured. But I don't know which I prefer, to be honest. I wonder if we do one with white, would that keep the colour, or would it do a very similar thing? Let's try it. No, I'm not using a lot of pressure. I think I like the white better. I know there's hardly anything in it, but I think it makes it look a little bit brighter and it's not kind of changing the colour so much. You might not be able to tell on camera, but if you do it in your book, then you'll know what I mean. I do like the idea of having the really dark insides of the cubby hole, but I just think that adding this little bit of white is going to give it a bit more definition and a bit more glow. It is a magical page after all. So I'm going to make sure that this time I press the record button and you'll see me go through the rest of these. I will be putting this white in places. Like I said, you don't need a lot. You don't need to press hard either. You just sort of skim it over the top of the colour, and then it keeps the intensity of the blue. We don't want to make it milky or washed out or anything like that. We do want to keep that intensity, but we just want to lighten it a bit. And it's a really quick thing to do as well once you've got all the base colours in there. You see how quickly that highlight has come out just then? Probably used a little bit too much black on this one. They shouldn't all be the same, really. You want to have a bit of variety. I just think it makes the box shape a little bit more defined as well. So to the eye, you are sort of looking in to the box, I think. So you see the difference now between those and this one. Hopefully the camera does pick it up. I can't really tell at this stage what the camera does and doesn't show you, but to my eye, it does look better. And it does look nice and glowy. It does look magical. Just a little bit over here to show that it's not all solid black. We did put some blue in this area. And hopefully Oh yeah, camera seems to have picked that up. So right, yeah, I'm going to go and do the rest of them and then we'll come back afterwards. Brilliant, I pressed the record button that time. So you'll have seen me colour the rest of the cubby holes. So I think what we'll do is we'll go with the powder blue and the blue lake for the outside of the, what is it? It's a shelf. It's a cabinet. Yeah, so we'll use those two colours. And purely because I think in the Ravenclaw mailroom you would have lots and lots of blue accessories, or at least that's what I'm saying to myself. So with the blue lake, let's try and get some little details in on the corners. I do want to make it obviously lighter than the inside of the cubbies, but I'm not going to make it too much of a contrast. We will be adding some of that darker Indanthropine blue to the real corners of the shadow areas, but I do want it to be mainly lighter. So I'll just do these corners first. So we draw a diagonal line down to the corner, and then we blend up and we blend across. Probably need to bring this out a little bit more. Might also do a bit more shading under this box because it's sticking out. And sometimes just trying to figure out the angles of where you put shadows and things, or you know, the darkest parts of the thing that you colour in. I think probably just stick to the corner blends. So yeah, just filling in the little crosses really of each in-between bit. So it might be easier just to make a cross first and then fill it in a bit more, blend it upwards and downwards and across, so that you're left with this little space in the middle that's blank at the moment. And we'll do the top and the bottom after. So one thing that I always try and advise, but never seem to remember that advice myself when I'm colouring, is to do all of your light items first. If you've got something like this that's got loads of different items on it and you want to do, for example, we're going to do the parcels in these light yellows, then it's always best to colour that first, because you can imagine now when we start colouring the parcels, we are probably going to end up dragging a little bit of black on there, which is not good. But hopefully the overall result will mean that the eye doesn't find those little mistakes. But yeah, if you're watching this all the way through first before you get started, definitely definitely do your items first, but I know we haven't done that video yet, so it's never perfect and polished on this channel. I think you've come to know that by now. I sort of fly by the seat of my pants a lot of the time when I'm colouring these pages, and I do forget things, and I don't always colour exactly in the right order of things that I should do, really. Like a lot of the time I'll start from like down here because it's closer to me, but then I realise that I should have started up and over here so that I'm moving across the page instead of smudging to the left. Okay, so we'll do these top corners now. Just drag that out a little bit more, and then drag down again. And the same at the bottom here. Like I said, if you've got any items that are sticking out of the box, it might be an idea to do your shading just a little bit deeper at those areas. And then for the bottoms, we'll just do a very similar technique to what we've just been doing. So we'll go in between each box and blend out. And hopefully that will just give it a nice look of a gradient, and maybe look a little bit like light hitting it, but really that's not what I'm going for. It's just to make it interesting, really, so we're not block colouring the whole thing. Let's bring up from here as well. And then just in the middle here, do a little bit. So I guess the next video is going to be making a start finally on all of the different parcels. The idea of colouring lots of different little things is not enthusing me today. So I think we will do that in our next video. I'm going to leave that there. A little bit more at the top. Excuse me. When it sort of looks a bit of something like that, then you can come in with the powder blue and fill it in a little bit, because it does look quite shiny at the moment, and that's not really what it probably would look like. I mean, it might do. It's a magical page. It might look shiny. But I think I'm just going to fill the white areas with the powder blue so that it doesn't have too much of a bright white highlight shine on it. Looks a little bit flatter. And hopefully you should be left with the corner bits that you've done looking quite prominent, you know, these centre bits here. I think that's all the little gaps. So I did say we put a little bit of the indanthrone blue in the deepest areas of shadow. I don't want to do a lot, but I do want to tie it in. So just a very, very slight bit. I'm barely touching the page, to be honest. Just give it that tiny bit of shadow and depth of colour. So maybe even just do a little bit of a circle in the middle. And that should make it look a little bit more tied into what's going on inside the cubbies. I can come and blend this out again with the, what was it called? Blue Lake. If you think that these strokes are a little bit too harsh or you've gone a bit far with it, you can come and blend it back out. So just going over it really lightly with the Blue Lake will just fade it a little bit more. But you've still got the powder blue keeping the central bits nice and light. So something a bit like that, pretty happy. So for the top of the unit, we will need to go a bit darker again. So I'm thinking probably the best thing to do will be to start with the indanthrone blue, maybe not the black this time, and start right at the back and just colour the very back bit of the top of the unit. Come out a little bit more towards the front. Just underline any of these items that are sat on top. And then with the Blue Lake again, fill in all the bits that you didn't colour. And now that we've made sure that there was enough room for the lighter bit, we can come back in with the indanthrone and just deepen that up a little bit in certain areas. So that you do end up with it looking a little bit further away from you, and obviously getting the shadows from the items on the top helps with that effect. I think probably what I'd do as well is, let's get a ruler. I don't know whether this is perfectly straight line that Joanna's drawn, probably not, because it's obviously all hand drawn. But if we try and get straight across as we can and just put this indent thrown blue there as a line straight across, that will hopefully separate it from the blue lake that's on the front. So yeah, pretty happy with that. I hope you are as well. Like I said, next time we will colour in all these tiny little bits of post. But yeah, so thank you for watching today. I know I've not been very enthusiastic. I am feeling a little bit under the weather, as you probably gathered. Literally under the weather, because the weather's rubbish. But yeah, I'd love to see how yours is turning out. Don't forget to tag me on Instagram or wherever you are. I'm on most of the social media platforms under Colour with Claire, so give me a bell, let me know what you're doing. I love to see your work, and yeah, see you on part 4.